Welcome! Today I wanted to show you all how to do lactofermentation at home. Now I feel like fermenting at home is a little bit intimidating, but I love lactofermentation because it's very simple and it's pretty much foolproof. So what you're gonna need, a quart glass jar with preferably a plastic lid. Because if you have metal, it can corrode. If you only have metal, just put a layer of wax paper or parchment paper between the lid and your ferment. Salt, needs to be non-iodized because that can actually inhibit the process. And then filtered water, that's also important because chlorinated water can also inhibit the process. Also, doesn't taste so good. And then spices and herbs, that's really up to you. Today I'm gonna do a very simple recipe. I encourage you to start simple so you can learn what flavors you like, and then you can expand from there. It's totally up to you. If you're someone who likes, a lot of different flavors, a lot of spice, then go for it by all means. This is definitely an area in the kitchen where you can have some fun and try a bunch of different styles and spices. So today, lactofermentation, which is how sauerkraut is traditionally done. So I am doing cabbage, making sauerkraut. I'm just going to have my salted water, my cabbage, and peppercorn, and that's it. So, super simple. What you are going to need to do first is you have 2 cups of filtered water, and you're gonna add about 1 to 1.5 tablespoons of non-iodized salt. And you're gonna let that dissolve. If you got a whisk handy, whisk it up. I've got a spoon here. I'm just gonna stir that around a little bit. You want that to fully dissolve, so we're gonna let that kind of work while we cut up our cabbage. So another thing to note when you are cutting your vegetables is the larger chunks, the crunchier your fermented veggies will be. I like a crunchy vegetable, so I tend to do bigger chunks. When you're also when you're using a smaller jar, like only a quart jar, keep in mind that, of course, bigger chunks, it's going to be harder to put more in there. So you want to find the right balance between making sure you get all your veggies in the jar while also keeping that crunch. So we're going to, super simple, we're just going to pile our cabbage here in the jar. So chop your veggies, throw it in the jar, super simple. And what's important about the other thing that's important about your brine, your salt water, is that ratio of 1 to 1.5 tablespoons to 2 cups filtered water. This is part of what lactofermentation is about. That ratio of salt to water doesn't allow bad bacteria to grow. So like I said, lactofermentation is pretty much foolproof. It's because of this brine. So it's a salty enough environment, bad bacteria doesn't grow, but it still allows for good bacteria to grow. So how cool is that? Okay, so I'm just stirring my brine, making sure that that is well dissolved. I'm also gonna add my peppercorn here. Other good herbs to put in sauerkraut are dill, try some basil in there, or mustard seed is also really good. Kind of just have fun with it. And then you kind of want to pack it down. And then here off to the side, when I was washing my cabbage, you want to save a leaf. I had a little bit too much coffee this morning, so mine got a little mangled, but you want to save a leaf, and this is going to be the topper to hold everything down and submerged in the water. And I'll explain why that's important as well. So here we are, we've got our cabbage and our peppercorn, whole peppercorn. Now I'm going to add our salt water. Looks like the salt is fully dissolved. You're gonna just pour that over the veggies and you're almost there. So one thing to note about when you are fermenting, and I'll explain where you want to place it in your kitchen. Lactofermentation gets its name because as these veggies are breaking down, they release lactic acid. And so something that, if you're not familiar with this, something that might kind of scare you at first is it will, once it starts working, it'll start to get cloudy and milky looking. And so that can look bad, but that is not bad. That's actually exactly what you want. So keep an eye out. Usually I feel like after 2 days, it'll start to be noticeably cloudy. Okay, so we've got our cabbage and our peppercorn. And so the reason we want to put a leaf on top is because you want to keep all of the veggies, basically all the food materials, submerged in this brine. Because again, the brine is what is preventing mold or bacteria from growing. Bad bacteria. So I'm just going to kind of trim up my cabbage leaf here. And of course you can get a weight. There's weights that fit mason jars, and that's a simple way of also holding. I just like to show this example. Well, I don't have one yet, but also because it's super cheap. I mean, you already bought a cabbage and it's very effective. So you're just gonna kind of dome your cabbage leaf and press it down, and you might get some little buddies that sneak out. Like I got a couple of peppercorns here. I'm just gonna pull those out, and then a couple of floating cabbage chunks. Okay, but oh my gosh, that's it, you guys. I mean, the brine, your veggie, your spices. Again, this is a super simplified recipe, but I encourage you to start simple because, well, it's easy, but also because then you can see how unintimidating, or how it's not intimidating to actually ferment at home. So keep it simple to start and expand from there. You're gonna wanna check on this every now and then, like every day if you can, a couple of times, just to make sure that all the material is staying submerged below the brine. You're going to put your plastic lid on, and you won't screw it on all the way. You'll just kind of gently let it sit there, because as it ferments, it's going to release gas, and if you have your lid screwed on tight, it can't be released. So that is our lactofermentation. Lactobacillus is the strain of bacteria we are growing in here, and they have many, many benefits. I mean, you're probably familiar with some probiotics, but researchers have started to study specific strains of bacteria, and this one has been shown to potentially lower cholesterol, bad cholesterol, also help regulate bowel movements, obviously because it's very beneficial for gut health, also has been shown to boost your immune system function, and can be helpful in skin conditions such as eczema. So super cheap: water, salt, cabbage, and peppercorn. So you can easily do this at home. Set it out of direct sunlight somewhere in your kitchen or in your cupboard, pantry, where it's not directly in contact with sun, and just check on it every now and then. I recommend starting to taste after 5 days. The other neat thing about doing it at home is you have control not over only the flavor, but also how tangy you want it to get. So for those of you that are new to fermented foods, taste after 5 days, And you can stop it there. To stop it, you just put it in the fridge. And by stop, I mean you like severely slow down the process. It will continue to ferment in your fridge, but very, very slowly, to where you won't really notice till like months later that it's still fermenting. The other cool thing about lactofermentation, not only how easy and cost effective it is, but also it's a great way to utilize or preserve vegetables if you have an overabundant garden, or a neighbor that's very generous, or you just got a little excited and bought too many veggies and couldn't keep up. If something's about to go bad, chop it up, put it in the brine, ferment it. You will be able to save that veggie, utilize it, and have no food waste, etc. So that's it. I hope you enjoy your little lactofermentation buddy and have fun doing this at home. Remember to check in on him every day if you can, to make sure stuff's staying submerged and he's bubbling and happy. All right, thank you so much.